are putting out this program. I'm still relatively young, but especially in my 10s and 20s, I was able to witness a country, in a big trouble. When I was 10, I moved to the Philippines because my parents were humanitarian workers. And that was 2 years after the dictator Marcos had left the country. But you know that Philippines, interestingly, is in the 50s and 60s and 70s, was a very well-to-do country. Especially from, I'm a Korean, a country like Korea, Philippines was a role model country. And Philippines, in a way, was really pivotal to Korea's development in the 70s. You know that Philippines, with their engineering technology, we were able to build, even the finance coming from this country, we were able to build the Korea's first indoor basketball stadium. We were also able to pave the first highway in the country back in the 70s. You see the U.S. Embassy. I'm not sure if you guys have been to Seoul, but we have a U.S. Embassy right at the heart of Seoul. That was also built with the capital and the engineering coming from the Philippines. And so Philippines was really a role model country. I took up my first job was working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I used to hear from my bosses that back in the days, they wanted to go and be based in the Philippines because the Philippines provided a very good education system. They really had a good healthcare. They also had a very good, clean community. And it was really a country that Korea wanted to emulate, wanted to become. But when I went there, it was a different story. The country was falling apart. The community was really in rubbles. And at that young age, I began to think about what is, in simple terms, what is good leadership as opposed to bad leadership. I also spent some time in Myanmar, tagging along with my parents, Myanmar, and a couple other places in the region. But I was also able to witness, why do certain countries or communities do well, but why do some countries or communities don't? And in my 20s, my first job was working at the UN. On a country level, on a society level, I was able to witness that as well, from Europe, Africa, some parts here. And then my last job before heading to Harvard to study was working at the consulting and hedge fund. And I was working for a company called the Lehman Brothers. And you know what happened in 2008, right? You saw this very well-to-do. It was a very prestigious company. In fact, many of the MBA students who graduated from the top 5 MBA schools all wanted to work for this company. Very good pay, very good benefits. But what happened, right? What happened? And some of the portfolios I had, of course, I saw, I was dealing with small projects like confectionery, those candies and snacks, to all the way to, the real estate, healthcare, the so-called the fourth industrial revolution. But I was able to witness some of the companies like Takata, the very world's one of the prominent airbag company from Japan. One of the portfolios I had was Nissan, Uber, British Gas, Xerox, and so forth. And one of them also was GM, Korea. And of course, I'm not trying to mention that all these, the negative elements of it, but of course there were companies that did really, really well, right? Some of the countries or the communities or the companies were doing well, but how come some don't? And looking back, reflecting, especially I spent about 4 years at Harvard trying to spend a time to reflect upon. And it was really a time for me to think about perhaps what is one thing I can do. Not so many things, just one thing I can do for the world. Beginning from the country where I come from, but a little bit more, Asia, and perhaps the world. And I've been thinking about that. It took me quite a while to think about what is one thing I can do, because I was at the time in my late 20s, I was thinking, when I become 60 or 70 or 80, looking back, looking at the walk of my life, what is one thing that I'll be really, really proud of? Giving my time, my energy, and my passion for. It was really difficult. I want to let you know I wasn't fired, okay? But I was thinking, yes, I seem to have, gotten the right knowledge. And I know a little bit about finance and perhaps some consulting work and maybe some strategies and management related work. But deep inside, I wasn't really, really happy with what I was doing. It took me 1 year to leave my work and going to Harvard and spending there for 4 years. Again, a time of reflection. One of the biggest takeaway was thinking about what leadership means to Asia. And I also had the opportunity to meet up with many of the leaders because I was leading a program called the Asia Leadership Track. And this is, bringing some Harvard students, scholars from Harvard, about 100 every year, to different parts of Asia. And for the past 3 years, we're able to visit about 68 cities, 29 countries. And we met up with a lot of leaders. And one of the bulk of the discussion was about leadership. How do you define leadership? How do you define change? Closed door, open. We had a very great discussion. And it all boils down to us, the human element. Because by the end of the day, it is us who should be exercising the leadership, right? The leadership right for our times, right for our place. I know that all of us represent different companies that you work for. Some of you guys are working for Sunway, and some of you guys work for other entities, and coming from all variations of sectors, right? Education, properties, hospitality, and so forth. But I hope that today, beginning from today until Thursday, I really want to encourage all of us to really set aside. We are in a way, by intention, detaching ourselves from our busy schedule. I want this time to be a time of reflection. I really want this time to be thinking about us, right? Self, us, and now, right? I know we are very busy, and some of us are very high up in our ranks. But I hope that what you have done for your community, beginning from your family, from your, maybe work, the work that you do, and also maybe other, community service work, whatever that you have done, I hope that all these will bear good fruits of labor, leaving a good legacy behind. I mentioned to you about the Lehman Brothers I worked for. The CEO was an amazing person. He seemed to have the right answer to all the problems in this world. But look at what he has done. It's a 100-year-old company. There were 170,000 employees in this company who were laid off. And I know some of my friends who had a very terrible experience, not knowing where to go next, been very loyal to the company. But not only that, we were selling the products to over 140 million people all around the world. And in fact, we were one of the culprits to, if you look at the divorce rate at the time, we see about 340% spike in the divorce rate. That's one of the data that we have. The bad impact because of the wrong judgment, ineffective and bad leadership, or outdated leadership, what that can do to the community around you, right? So I hope that, in a way, we can spend some time together to really think about this. This can be a great checkpoint for all of us in thinking about whether we are being a value add, where we are exercising the right form of leadership that brings value to the community that we represent and serve. I think in our world today, we are being challenged by two main things, right? One is, we are in this organization and we have what we call the people-to-people problem, right? It's really difficult to, sometimes mobilize people. When we open up a discussion. There's all kinds of things. I am the middle person. We have a senior. We have people. I don't know what to do. I'm not empowered enough. We are in a very competitive industry, but the 20 people or 50 people that are under me are not willing to move. We are always either having a difficult time around politicking, so-called politics, complacency, right? And we have many other problems. But also, we're also faced with the external challenges, which is the advancement of the technology. I had just come back from Korea last week. And I was meeting with a few of my friends.